So, Moon square to Mercury in Synastry. So, Moon-Mercury aspects, once again, link the unconscious emotional responses and the needs and the subjective feeling nature of the Moon person with the more rational, left-brained, qualifying tendencies of the Mercury person. So we have rational and irrational in some type of conversation with each other when we have the Moon and Mercury in aspect to each other, and they have a lot to do with what the daily climate will be like between the two of us. How are we going to understand each other? This is really very key. So good aspects between Moon and Mercury in Synastry are very, very good and extremely underrated. And the hard aspects between the Moon and Mercury in Synastry tend to carry a lot of weight when it comes to infusing some friction into things and having a lot of misunderstandings, and often the Moon person just feeling wholly misunderstood with the hard aspects. And that's what can happen with the square, is that the Moon person feels like their feelings will be misinterpreted or misjudged or misqualified by the Mercury person. And so they tend to hold back or just flat out feel that they are not being understood. And that is frequently the case because the Mercury person is interpreting the needs and the emotional requirements of the Moon person. They're interpreting their irrational emotions and needs through the perception of Mercury. So the feelings are going in one ear, the information from the Moon person is going in one ear of the Mercury person, then it's working through all of these different ways of seeing things, qualifying things, judging things, believing things, understanding things. So it's going through this complex understanding process, and then so it's filtering through the Mercury person's understanding of what's rational, what's correct, and then it's coming out the other ear as what the Mercury person understands. So what's going in one ear and what's coming out the other are not the same thing. When we have the Moon person communicating with the Mercury person, and this is a style issue. It's because the style of the Mercury person's thinking and qualifying of information and interpretations, perceptions are so different than where the Moon person is coming from, and their style, the sign that the Moon is in, that the Mercury person doesn't get what the Moon person is saying or is after. So it leads to a lot of feelings on the Moon person's part, like, you don't get me. It's just not landing well. And it leads to a lot of feelings or thoughts on the Mercury person's part about the Moon person having wrong needs or feelings, or having emotional goings on with them that are not in agreement with what the Mercury person's idea of what correct is. So the Moon person's comfort zone is very, very, very different from the Mercury person's understanding zone. And so there is this interplay where the one is putting it out there, and then the moon person, then the Mercury person is taking that and twisting that so they understand it, and it comes out as something very different than what the moon person intended that to be. So this is where the misunderstanding comes from. So we have to understand that it's not that one of us are better or worse than the other. This is a style issue. And the Mercury person has to understand the moon person's feelings from the moon person's point of view. That's really hard to do because they're trying to put them through this process of it making sense to them. So the Mercury person has to learn to accept the feelings and the communications of the moon person just as it is. So there's not going to be a rational understanding on the part of the Mercury person, and most people want to get to that. So it's almost like we just have to accept, if we're the Mercury person, that a lot of what the moon person is going to ask for and need and want and require is going to make no sense to us. And if we try to make sense of it, it's going to make the problem worse. So it's like, okay, we just have to, I love you. And so even though you need me to say, brush the cat 4 times a day in order for you to feel, safe and secure and like you're living in a hygienic environment, if I try to understand that, I'm going to go crazy. That makes no sense to me as the Mercury person, but I'm just going to accept it as it is. Okay, that's what you need. It's never going to be logical because it doesn't make sense to me. And so I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to, this is what makes you feel loved. This is what makes you feel appreciated. This is what makes you feel understood and responded to. Even though it makes no sense. I'm going to brush the cat 4 times a day. And, I can do that. And so this is what we have to do on the part of the Mercury person. We have to respond to the moon person, even though they seem like a stupid dumbass. And we have to understand as the moon person that the Mercury person is not being insensitive. They are mystified as to what it is that we're getting at. So as the moon person, we have to understand the Mercury person's point of view, that even though our feelings may not make sense to them, and if they try to think about it too much, it's going to make less sense, that they're going to do their best to just respond to us as we need it. So we don't feel misunderstood because they've put their powers of analysis to work and it's gone in one ear and it's come out some other way. And so the moon person feels misunderstood and the Mercury person feels mystified, and then it leads to this communication breakdown, and then the moon person stops sharing. And the Mercury person just has this idea that, oh, thank God they're not bothering with me with that because it doesn't make sense to me anyway. And then it does create a distance over time between two people having these difficult aspects. So we have to be mature. We have to be adults when we are dealing with these types of hard aspects, because they do create daily problems, almost hourly problems, when we have Moon Mercury aspects that need work. So if we can both be mature and we can both see where the other person's coming from and understand that we're not going to have complete understanding, we are having tolerance. And we are responding to the other person as the Mercury person as we need to do. Don't put it through your process filter because it's going to make it more difficult. Just accept the moon person's needs and askings and inclinations as they are. And you will be able to work with this. So if this exists along with other hard aspects between like Moon and Mars, Moon Pluto stuff, if we have other tense things that are causing triggering reactions, this can be something that really is the straw that breaks the camel's back. So we have to be careful with hard aspects between Moon and Mercury and judge them in light of the totality of the relationship. So I hope this made sense and brought some clarity to this. You can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com, Facebook, Instagram, other social media. I'm mainly a relationship and intimacy astrologer, but I interpret all types of charts. And please find me on my website because I also have more content there for subscribers, and I'll be back super soon with more super cool videos.